A breaking news story, the body of Emmett Till has been found dead.
Why did they take my child from me?
On Friday, October 21st, 2022, students from the Emmett Lewis Till Math and Science Academy attended a special screening of the movie Till.
I need to prepare you.
Can you bring Emmett's black suit? It's how he'd like to be seen.
Bo's in no kind of shape to be seen by anyone.
He's in just the right shape.
That smell is my son's body, reeking of racial hatred.
Champs Mentoring Program, led by founder and CEO Vondell Singleton. In association with Blacks in Green, BIG, which owns the Till House, the boyhood home of Emmett Till, and is in the process of renovating the structure into a museum and theater, hosted the students for a night of entertainment and education.
The whole world has to see what happened to my son.
Till Academy at 6543 South Champlain is just a stone's throw away from the boyhood home of Emmett Till, located at 6427 South St. Lawrence. Blacks in Green is determined that these students understand and appreciate the rich legacy that exists right in their own neighborhood.
We're all learning, and we're really grateful for the opportunity again to come together to celebrate our very own. We have a partnership through the Champs program. I'm the CEO of Champs, Vondell Singleton. I've met most of you all, some I haven't met. And we work with Emmett Till School, right off Champlain, off 65th. And we go every Monday and Friday with a group of young men. I'm gonna ask the mentors to please stand up so you can acknowledge these mentors. Thank you, mentors. And so this is our second year at Emmett Till, and we go every Monday and every Friday from 12:30 to 1:30, and we work with young men. And our goal this year, Principal Tally, who's the principal in her second year at the school, is to learn the history of Emmett Till. She called me in the summer and she said, you know, Mr. Singleton, I realize a lot of my students don't know Emmett Till and they go to school here. And you know what surprised me, she said? I said, what, Principal Tally? She said, a lot of my teachers don't know about Emmett Till. So that's why I opened up with that question, who can tell me about Emmett Till? And now that we have this movie, it's going to create more conversation and dialogue. So I had the privilege to meet Mrs. Davis, and she was telling me about the Blacks and Greens. And she heard about our sponsorship with the movie, and she says, well, I won't be able to be there personally, but I'm going to send a team of individuals, and I want to sponsor. So I want to give a congratulations to the Blacks and Greens. They're going to introduce themselves, but she donated $1,000 to the Champs program for us to be here.
I don't want him seeing himself the way those people are seen down there.
How's everybody doing this evening? Okay. I know you guys are tired and you want to get to the movie, so we're going to make this real quick. We actually want to come and partner with Champs to come to your school and do a more extensive presentation when you're all much more rested and ready to receive. But we do want to say that, any 14-year-olds in here? 14-year-olds? 14. Emmett Till was 14 years old when he was brutally tortured and murdered. And you really got to read the story. I won't go into any of the details with you here. We have a gentleman here who actually grew up in the neighborhood who knew the Till family, and he's going to say some brief remarks about that. But we do want to let you know that Blacks in Green acquired the boyhood home of Emmett Till, the house that he lived on 6427 South St. Lawrence. And the house is being renovated right now. It's going to be a museum and a theater. We want to keep the memory of Emmett Till alive, not so much the brutal torture that he suffered, but what his death ignited in terms of the country coming to understand the way that black people were being treated, not just in the South, but all over the country. And his death, because his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, allowed the casket to be opened so that people could see the brutal way that her son was tortured, it ignited a movement around it. Because a lot of, even today, a lot of the brutality that people face is denied. If there wasn't a video for George Floyd's murder, or so many other people that have been brutalized by the police and by others, there wouldn't even have been a trial, let alone a conviction. So we can see that even now today, a lot of this work is happening because people have exposed the brutality. And that's what Mamie Till did when she allowed the casket of her son to be opened, and people could see the horrible way that they abused this boy's body as they tore it. 14 years old, 14 years old. Right. But like I said, we're going to share some more about that, and particularly look for the coming of the opening of the Mamie Till Mobley and Emmett Till House Museum and Theater, which will be coming soon. We also have a garden, which is right down the block from the home. And some of you, if you live in the neighborhood, just walk by. There's a beautiful landscaping going on at the house. And Ellen Grimes here, who's with the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, is going to say a little bit more about the house and some of the work that her team is doing around moving that project forward.
We're working on the Till family house at 6427 South St. Lawrence. We can't open it up yet, but we hope to come to you to talk to you about the house and to get your ideas about what should happen at the house. It's in really good shape, but we still have to make it suitable for people to come visit. So we hope to see everybody at Till Academy soon, and keep thinking about your ideas for what we could do at the house, because we want to focus on the people who were Emmett's age when he died, and help build the legacy that Mr. Reynard Hall is inaugurated as as Mamie's first student. So, Mr. Hall.
All right.
My name's Reynard Hall, and I had the privilege of getting to know Mamie Mobley as a young man. I was 12 years old in the 5th grade. She was my 5th grade school teacher. I'm an old guy now with gray hair and that, but if you could imagine me at age 12, I'd look like what Emmett Till looked like. Light-skinned, round-faced kid. I brought a picture of Mamie and her husband, Gene Mobley, because the story I tell, because I had the privilege of knowing them growing up, the story I tell is the story of Mamie and her bravery, how it was her spirit that demanded an open casket when the body was brought back to Chicago, so that people could see how brutally Emmett had been killed. And it was very, very effective in igniting what became the civil rights movement.
That's right.
You have the public's attention. We have an opportunity.
I don't want my children to have to live in fear.
Those pictures of your son changed people's lives.
1 month ago, I had a nice life in Chicago. I had a son.
Many people, I'm assuming in the movie that you see tonight, you're going to learn that Emmett was just one of many black people who were treated horribly in the South. He wasn't unique, or as unique as you might want to believe. There were tons of atrocities. The difference was Mrs. Mobley. She was a woman who was determined that her son's death would mean something. I have a tape of her telling an old newsman, Mike Wallace, literally, I hope my son's death starts a movement. She didn't say civil rights movement, but that's exactly what it did. And I'm gonna be brief. I can tell you a lot of stories about Mamie and Jean. I had the privilege of sitting at her kitchen table as an adult. So that my point of view has always been, yes, Mamie was a hero, but don't overlook Jean Mobley, her husband, as well, because he was right there with her. You know, you might see him depicted as a coat holder. Here, hold my coat while I go talk. He was her backbone. He was her strength. He was a $1 million a year insurance salesman when they met. So he was a man with a lot of friends, a salesman. So he had sharp patter and he dressed real well. And he liked to go out at night. Well, Mamie was a church girl. She grew up in the church. And all that nightlife was just not for her. Sitting at their table, I heard this story that when they first got together, Jean tried to get Mamie to come out at night with him. It was part of his business and part of his lifestyle. And she just wouldn't have it. That wasn't her. So one night, he came home after midnight, and the door was locked. He couldn't get in. He knocks on the door. She ignores him. I guess after about 30 minutes, she came to the door and said, "You can't do this anymore." And she opened the door to let him in, and he started making an excuse. She told the story that she took a skillet and popped him right in his head like that.
I mean it!
And he's sitting there listening to her tell this story, so he's not denying that it happened. He looked at me and smiled. He said, "Raynard, I did learn, not that I couldn't go out at night anymore, but I still think about it." There are tons of stories I could tell, and I think what's going to happen is we're going to arrange through the Mamie and Emmett Till Museum for us to come to your school. And at your school, if you guys are interested, I'll tell you a few more stories about the real Mamie Till Mobley and her love for Emmett and how she inspired hundreds and thousands of people to stand up and demand better treatment, respect, and how she was used by the NAACP, for example, to register voters. I could talk all night. I know so many stories, but let me save them. Let me invite myself to come to your school along with the Emmett Till Museum, and we'll talk more at that time. It's a pleasure talking to you tonight.
Blacks and Greens. It's big.